CBC Evening News.
Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. This is the CBC Evening News. Prime Minister Fundle Stewart is vowing to break his silence in short order on the CLICO affair, and today during the estimates debate revealed that he has obtained a list of names that invested in a special non-traditional CLICO policy with expectations of attractive returns. It's called the Executive Flexible Premium Annuity.
I have a list, because I requested it, of all of the persons who invested in the Executive Flexible Premium Annuity. I have a list of all of them. And I say anything yet. I say no yet. I know all the people who wanted quick money, who were entranced by the lure of the attractive interest rates. I know them. I have all of the names. But we wait. There is going to be a lot to be said on this. Do not mistake my silence for an incapacity to speak. The time will come when all things will be made clear and explained.
Prime Minister Stewart has called on CLICO policyholders and all Barbadians to be patient as the judicial managers overseeing the process continue their work to bring some resolution to the matter. However, he believes that the issue could have been dealt with sooner if the Oversight Committee initially tasked to manage the situation was allowed to finish the job.
My own view is, quite frankly, that we might have been better off if there had been more trust on the respective sides of this House and the Oversight Committee, which had been put in place by the late Honourable Member for St. John, had been kept in place. The millions of dollars that I'm hearing about that have had to be paid to judicial managers, I mean, dizzying millions, we wouldn't have had to pay, and we would have, in my view, have made a little more progress in this matter.
On the issue of delays of payment to pensioners from the National Insurance Scheme, the Prime Minister says the problem should be partially resolved by the end of next week.
I spoke as recently as this morning with the Director of National Insurance, who assures me that corrective action continues to be taken and that a substantial dent would have been made in the problem by the end of this week.
Member of Parliament for St. Andrew, George Payne, is calling for a town hall meeting with Prime Minister Fundle Stewart, Finance Minister Chris Sinclair, and Minister of Transport and Works Michael Lashley on the situation at Whitehill in St. Andrew. Mr. Payne says these residents need to know what will happen since the road has been abandoned. The St. Andrew MP says 3 construction companies have expressed an interest in constructing a new road, but to date nothing has happened and no provisions have been made in the estimates for the residents of Whitehill.
You have school children, because the road has been completely blocked off. What they did, they delivered some material right in front of the road. They didn't even allow a place, a little passage for the pedestrians to walk. I mean, they did a similar thing in Rock Hall. They may not get there. Down by Borden's Bridge. Block off the road completely. No alternative road. School children cannot get to school. Serious problem with garbage disposal, Mr. Speaker. Delivery trucks. People ordering things because people still like nice things and can't get them in, Mr. Speaker. The injustices, the emergency services. A lady almost, a pregnant lady, she didn't lose her baby, but she almost lost her baby because the emergency vehicle couldn't get it.
St. Peter Member of Parliament Owen Arthur is warning that Barbados is in a debt trap and must examine debt refinancing. According to Mr. Arthur, while he appreciates the Finance Minister's announcement that the decline has stopped, Barbados' debt service of $240 million is growing at a faster rate than the deficit. Mr. Arthur says that the island's debt problems will impact any benefits to be derived from the announced 0.3% growth rate.
The important index in this is not the debt to GDP ratio. There are countries like Japan, Italy, that have a debt to GDP ratio that is priced Barbados. 200%. The key issue is the debt to revenue. Barbados has now reached the stage where out of every dollar of revenue that the government of Barbados earns, 66% has to go to pay for debt. And once this continues, all of the problems that we hear about, the absence of toilet paper at the hospital and these things, they will persist.
Mr. Arthur told Parliament he's skeptical about government's ability to finance its programs and is advising the Democratic Labour Party to examine alternative ways of raising revenue, like selling assets.
Put any proceeds from privatization into a segregated fund to help you to pay down the debt, because the debt is the problem and the financing of the debt is the problem as well. All of us in this house, Mr. Speaker, if we had a situation where we were cash-strapped but asset-rich, we go and sell assets in order to be able to deal with our affairs. That is the same situation that is now, sir, facing the country.
Government has been criticized for taking too long to deliver on its promise to transfer ownership of National Housing Corporation units to tenants. Opposition Member of Parliament Santia Bradshaw says it should have been done by now.
This administration came to office giving the people of this country the hope, the certain hope, that persons who lived in tenancy units for more than 20 years would receive their conveyances to their properties once the Democratic Labour Party came to office. And to this day, despite legislation having been passed on the eve of the last election, despite protestations by the Minister of Housing on various occasions trying to defend that the legislation would be amended and that we would have a situation where the conveyances would come to the fore, not one single conveyance has been handed over to any member, certainly in St. Michael South East, to date.
In response, Housing Minister Dennis Kelman says the government is committed to the transfers.
We understand, Mr. Speaker, that once we have passed these conveyances to the persons, that they have not only, Mr. Speaker, a unit, but they have a piece of collateral that they can take to the bank and also empower their children, because they have a negotiable instrument to empower not only themselves but their families. And that is why it is going to cost as much as $34 million or thereabout. And we are prepared to ensure that we get those funds and to deliver to the people of Barbados, because we understand the importance of housing and the importance of owning a piece of land in this country.
We'll have more news after the break, but first we want to get your take on this question. Do you agree with the decision to make the CLECO judicial report public? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the results at the end of the news.
Shopping in the Sky is simply delicious at our mouth-watering brand new Sky Food Court. Our amazing spread includes Little Pleasures ice cream, coffee, and desserts. Authentic Asian cuisine at Waldy's Walk. Delectable Greek dining at Opa Express. A range of sumptuous Caribbean dishes at Tamarind of the Islands. And the very best of Bajan cuisine and pastries. Compliments Master Chef Peter Edie and his delightful pastry house and Peter Patties. Plus, we've got the world-renowned fast food giant Burger King. You cannot pass Haggett Hall and not join us for a quick, delicious meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at our brand new food court. Only at Sky Mall, where when it comes to great fast food, there are no limits.
One of the easiest and most effective ways that you can avoid the spread of infection is to make sure that you wash your hands frequently, especially before and after preparing food, after using the toilet, before and after eating, after blowing your nose, after smoking, and after using your hand when coughing or sneezing. To be really effective, hand washing should be thorough, using liquid soap and water. First, rub palms together, then wash with the right palm over the back of the left hand and left hand over the back of the right with fingers interlaced. Repeat this action with the palms together. Rub the backs of the fingers to the opposing palms. Rotate thumbs while clasped in opposing palms. Finally, rub palms backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of opposing hands. Remember, frequently washing your hands is an effective method of protecting yourself and others against the spread of any virus.
Law enforcement officials successfully disrupted a drug shipment following an operation at sea some 3 miles off South Point, Christchurch yesterday afternoon. 3 men listed as Barbadians were held, and approximately 123 pounds of cannabis and 32 kilograms of cocaine were seized. The operation was conducted by the drug squad and police marine unit. 1 Barbadian registered cabin cruiser was also seized. Well, there's strong objection tonight to some aspects of the forensic audit of CLICO recently released by Deloitte, the judicial managers, for what is now known as International Life Insurance Limited. It's coming from the legal team representing former CLICO executive Leroy Paris and Brandley Consulting Services. One of the senior members of the team, Queen's Counsel Hal Gollop, says one of their major concerns was that Mr. Paris was not given an opportunity to be interviewed as part of the process.
In spite of the fact that at page 1, it states that judicial manager undertook to conduct interviews with representatives of CIL, CLICO Holdings Barbados Limited, or the related companies or third parties, the manager has not, even to this day, interviewed Mr. Leroy Paris, the former chief executive of CLICO Holdings Barbados Limited.
Mr. Gollop also charges that the audit makes no findings and that the public is only left to speculate on various matters. He also says it is amazing that the report provides no statement of accounts, despite the fact that the financial collapse of CLICO International Life Insurance Limited was what gave rise to the implementation of judicial management. Mr. Gollop also dismissed another suggestion that a lot was sold to Mr. Paris's father-in-law, identified as Dennis Leacock, when Mr. Paris's father-in-law is actually Vance Wharton.
It is most disturbing that even though the forensic inquiry provided no evidence upon which the judicial manager could rely, an adverse imputation was still made. The fact is that the said lot was conveyed to Ms. Leacock's mother, Mrs. Thelma Taylor, who lived on that lot with her husband, now deceased, by Todd's estate under the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act, long before the estate became the property of one of CLICO Holdings Barbados Limited subsidiaries.
The ambitious clean energy program for northern Barbados, dubbed St. Lucie Energy Gateway, is to get underway next year. That's the word from Emera, the parent company for the Barbados Light and Power Company Limited. Vice President of Asset Management at Emera Caribbean, David McGregor, provided further insight into the initiative during a Green Barbados workshop as he outlined the Canadian company's vision for the island.
We're currently doing land preparation work and soil testing work for that to commence very shortly, and with it to be commissioned by the first quarter of 2016. We hope the St. Lucie Energy Gateway can be used further as a gateway for wind in the north of the island, and perhaps storage. We have some industrial land up there that could be ideally used for storage. But let's start off with the solar. Let's start off what we can execute quickly on today, and that's what we're planning.
Well, despite its efforts to secure natural gas as a cheaper alternative for electricity generation, Mr. McGregor declared there is no availability of economic natural gas.
I worked on this for a couple of years. We followed 15 to 18 credible leads, 4 credible leads and 15 not credible leads with regard to the supply of natural gas. At the end of that 2-year adventure, we certainly came to the conclusion that we cannot, at this time, bring natural gas to the island for less than the cost of heavy fuel oil, which is kind of the whole point. Now, not to say never, and in fact, I think there's still some good work going on at government with some advisors with IDB to figure out whether natural gas could be available.
Well, Barbadians top the list of Super Lotto winners. Lotto officials say so far, 7 out of the lucky 11 millionaires are from Barbados. The latest is Merville Alves, who this morning collected his prize of $3,110,000. He is the second Barbadian winner in just 3 weeks. The 76-year-old of Ruby St. Philip arrived at the Barbados lottery with his daughter, Linnell Thorne, and granddaughter, Leona Thorne Hines. He says he spends $200 weekly on tickets.
I play my own numbers all to quick pick because it seems as when you play quick pick, you don't get anything off the Super Lotto. So I wasn't going to buy it after it had won. So then I think back and said, you know, the last time somebody win it, and then it had won shortly after that. So I bought the ticket this Friday. There it was, the Saturday morning, I just checking the numbers. And as I checked, the number always corresponding, so that was a good thing.
Well, congratulations to Mr. Alves. Still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region. But first, a reminder that we want to hear from you on the question. Do you agree with the decision to make the CLECO judicial report public? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the result for you at the end of the news. Now remember, you can also follow us on Twitter at CBC_Barbados and on our Facebook page, CBC News Barbados.